Hello and welcome to Bits and Atoms, the Grisham Robotics Founder Series. I'm your host, Elias Can, and today I've got Artem Chinakov, co-founder and CEO of Sudden, joining me. To get started, Artem, would you mind sharing a quick intro about you and Sudden?
Yeah, of course. So, hey everyone, my name is Artem. I grew up in Siberia and then built a bit of a career in consultancy and tech. And now we are building Sudden, which is a boxing gym for salespeople, as I like to think of it. We create the simulations of clients so that sales teams can practice and improve their skills and do better with the real leads.
Amazing. Let's jump into some questions. And to get us started, what originally motivated you to become a founder? What's kind of your origin story there?
I would say that it was a gradual maturation process, how to say. My first entrepreneurial experience was pretty early. Back when I was getting my bachelor's degree, I lacked some cash to take my girlfriend to a date, so I started looking for opportunity to earn a bit. And I wanted not to do just generic job, but ideally use what I've learned in the uni. So I've created a little project. I was preparing business plans as a service. But then I've sort of moved to consultancy and did various things. Funnily enough, the first job I worked on as an employee was audit. And it turned out to be the opposite of what I love. Because in audit, you only do with the past. You only check that the past is correctly reflected in the financials. And regardless of how wonderful you have done your job, the world does not change if you're doing audit. And this is the opposite of what I've loved to do. And I was moving from consultancy to in-house strategy, then landed as a GM in a tech business. And then I decided to move out of Russia. And I've learned that probably to continue for me to make an impact on the world and earning better living, entrepreneurship is the best opportunity out there.
Very cool. And love the initial story that you're motivated for some extra money for a date. I think it's a good good motivator there.
We've all been there, I guess.
Yeah. And interesting that you brought up too that auditing for you less of the fit because it's more of a focus on the past and you can't really change too much about the future. And maybe that leads into my next question here, which would be landing on AI coaching. How did you initially come across this opportunity? How did you kind of land on this and wanted to build a business here?
Mm-hmm. Well, it came out of our client when we've launched our project and focused it on a different problem initially. So the idea we are currently focused on is the result of a pivot. And initially, a friend of mine who we worked together previously approached me with a suggestion to automate high-volume recruitment. He's an operations guy, and he's been leading high-volume recruitment for large companies. And he saw that the business function is pretty basic, and there are a lot of problems associated with it, which can be eliminated if you are replacing people with robots. And that's what we attempted to do, and we did it for one company, and it did quite well. We've sort of scaled their hiring capacity 5 times without expansion of a team. And till today, we are helping with them with 100% of their recruitment in sales teams. But it turned out that the function we was helping to staff was sales. And we sort of got close with the sales leaders and the learning and development team of the client. And we learned that staffing is not even half of the business. You still, what you're sort of attempting to make is to maximize the revenue you get out of the payroll you've associated with the sales function. And we started thinking around that together with our clients. And we learned that if we just replicate the processes that are done by humans currently, we are not helping to use AI to the full extent. And actually, if you are looking to build a productive sales payroll, so to say, you'd love to learn a bit more about the skill set of the team you're building. And ideally, you would like to staff it initially with people who are more prone to doing the specific type of sales your business needs. And whenever you have hired everyone in, you would love to see how does your skill set vary from team member to team member, and equip them with a way to enhance that skill set. So that's basically was roughly the process. And I'm thinking of it as of a boxing gym, because sports, I think, is a good analogy. In sports, 95% of time you practice, and only 5% you're on a real fight, on a real championship. And although sales is arguably one of the most important parts of the business, that's just where the revenue comes from, it was the opposite all the way before the AI came. 95% of the exercise was on the championship with real leads, and companies were sort of wasting them to make their teams learn. And at the same time, even in medicine, even in surgery, for example, you have the simulations of bodies which surgeons use to train, do different procedures. And it feels that sales, it's the right time to bring similar experience to sales.
Very interesting. And yeah, it's an interesting learning as well on your side that the staffing piece was a challenge, but actually getting them to be effective salespeople post hiring was an even bigger challenge. And I think you touch on an interesting piece too there with the cultural perspective and making sure that the right kind of persona and personality to be a fit with the team, and probably the product that they're selling as well. I'm sure a lot of kind of like soft considerations or things about someone's personal style that make them a certain good fit within a certain industry or selling a certain kind of product. And maybe because you mentioned, it's not just staffing, it's kind of that coaching piece, and like you said, doesn't have to be all the time within the championship. You're building up to kind of getting there to that big fight. Like, how do you see Sudden differentiating from other coaching products on the market, maybe other staffing products as well, since you're touching like a bit of both sides? And yeah, how are you positioning Sudden today?
Yeah, so we are betting on the depth of the customers we replicate. We are sort of focusing on making sure that whenever a user of ours is speaking to a simulation of a client, the conversations, the situations are hard to game, and they are stressful. They pump your adrenaline, and therefore you are not just remembering what you've been just told in a safe environment, but you train under pressure. And if you have ever done any sports, you know that in order to grow your muscle or grow your skill, you need to hit above your current level. It should feel difficult. And that puts us aside from a few products that are there. For example, there are companies that are providing opportunities to create customers and to test how well are you cross-selling, for example, or how well do you handle specific objection. But I haven't seen so far that anybody goes as deep as we do, and therefore the hardness and the usefulness of the training that we provide feels on a different level. For example, a few companies we are currently in discussions with are from the pharmaceutical industry, and I've been working for pharma a bit myself, so I know a bit what the business is about. There, the companies have reps, as they call them, in the field, speaking to the clinicians, speaking to the doctors, and different decision makers around medicine purchasing. And there is a ton of context around those discussions, because in every country, there is a legal way to treat specific condition, which doctors have to stick to. And this is something they account for when they listen to the propositions, to the stories the pharma companies are telling them. On top of that, there are specific situations without procurement, and the budget might be abundant or not. It may be sort of distributed this way or another. And this is especially significant if you are speaking not to a doctor, but to a decision maker who makes the procurement decision for one drug or for another. You need to account like sort of by the metrics and the measures they need to hit. legally, because this is the law, this is the budget, etc. So all of that is in the game with real conversations. If you just come to ChatGPT and say, pretend you're an oncologist and I need to talk to you, you will get a very shallow training experience, I would say. We're going deep so that the exercises we are making are provoking, stressful, and therefore they are better in building the muscle, the sales muscle, so to say.
Yeah, the depth makes the big difference there versus something that's more shallow and generalist across a lot of different places, but you need
Absolutely.
that depth to really drive better learning.
Absolutely.
Would you say that's what customers are most excited about when they're using Sudden? Are there other features or kind of key value drivers for them so far that they've mentioned to you or to your team that have really excited them about using Sudden so far?
Yeah, there are a few. So naturally, when we figure out what the customer or client situation is and what kind of customer should be useful to the users within our client, and we present them with a simulation of that, usually everybody is impressed. Like, oh wow, it feels so real. It listens to me. When by it they mean the robot we've created, right? It's really smart in answering the questions I ask or like reacting to the propositions I make. So meeting your client simulation first time and feeling how similar it is to the real life is something everybody is usually impressed about. But as we are at a quite early stage of building our business, we have not chosen yet a very narrow application of that idea. And there are at least two applications where we may decide to focus on. One is working with the existing teams, and the other one is working with the potential candidates for the roles at the sales team. In the first case, you may go really deep in terms of, and you have to go really deep in terms of context, because the employees, they know the product, they know the business, they know the industry already, they are sort of in the know. The candidates are less so, and there you are rather looking for specific types of the sales skill set versus knowledge of specific industry products, etc. Because you will be sort of onboarding the people, they will get familiar with their businesses, right? So in the second case, the thing we help business with is to spot who is the fantastic candidate. For example, if your business is relying on cross-sell as the core source of margin, you need to see who is a great cross-seller, who may establish a wonderful rapport with a client, who may demonstrate active listening and not just bluntly shut the offers, but figure out what the problem on the customer side is and provide what you have as a solution to that problem, right? Because this is something that makes cross-sell work. So there, we create assessments which are available to all the applicants immediately after they apply, and which are tuned to spot exactly the type of skill that make or break the business of our client. So their clients love that usually 4 hours after they see the application, like imagine you're looking for a sales job, you're going a job page and you submit, you press the submit button. 4 hours later, the employer sees how well are you doing with the cross-sell. And if you're a wonderful cross-sell specialist, they will see you and they will be knowing that they need to hunt you. You are the golden, like the gem on the market. If they don't pick you up, some other company will, and they will lose the opportunity to do wonderful, to make wonderful business. So the speed with which they see the insights about the candidates is something that is very impressive. And as we've started as a automation of high volume recruitment, speed we thought will be one of the key differentiators of what we are building, and therefore the name Sudden came up, because it feels sudden. You suddenly see the gems among the candidates.
That's a great tie-in on the name side there. And it's interesting too that I think for candidates these days, folks feel like they're drowning in a sea of applications because everyone can use AI to quickly to apply to so many different places. And I'm sure on the employer side too, like it's challenging like you said, finding that diamond in the rough when you're combing and sorting through, and even having, you know, AI tools on your side as well to kind of parse through that bigger and bigger growing stack of CVs or resumes or whatever the application process might look like. So yeah, it's really interesting that to hear that value for the candidate side, because they've also been experiencing a lot of challenges in this hiring market.
Yeah, exactly. And what I also love about our idea is that we are making the world a better place in a specific way. Say, if you are looking around for AI startups dealing with sales, you may find a lot that try to automate the sales job so that eventually there are ChatGPTs calling for customers, trying to convert them into sales. But usually those conversations are quite stupid, at least for now. And therefore the conversions are quite low. And what you're doing, you're fighting the low conversion with a high volume, which means that you generate a ton of stupid conversations out there. A lot of calls which customers do not like, which as the consequence do not result in a sale. What we do, we are helping every conversation that real humans have with real customers make more fruitful, make customers listen to, make the propositions be reasonable in the context. So I think we are going against the market in some part of it, but I love that we are making conversations more meaningful and maybe less numerous, but more productive.
Absolutely. And maybe one last question, and to switch gears a little bit, tell me a little bit in terms of fundraising strategy and how you're seeing the fundraising landscape. What's been your fundraising strategy so far? Any kind of like tips or tricks or things that you've found that have worked really, really well for you?
We are still in the process, so it's a bit early to tell what exactly worked fine, what has not. Although some things definitely worked badly, and these are the sort of the mistakes we've made. I would say that for us, at least, cold outreach proved to be absolutely inefficient. And even though you may have thousands of emails of the investment people in the funds you need, and they're quite good tools to find the investors and the emails, etc. For us, literally, the conversion was 3 calls out of 7,500 leads, and that's something that doesn't help you close around. So since then, we've refocused onto warm outreach, so to say. And I was surprised to learn how many good connections I have, who may be one handshake away from the fund they need. So that's where we are doubling down. And surprisingly enough, if you found a way to figure out who have just raised from the fund you like, people are usually quite open to sharing their experience and to getting to know you. And that may secure one more or a few more warm interests. I haven't completed that path yet, but I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, as they say, and I'm building on the success of few friends of mine that worked quite nicely for them, and I hope it will do for us too.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a really interesting strategy of finding both groups, VCs that have made an investment in a similar company or similar space recently. Sometimes firms will do what we would generally call like competitive investments. Sometimes they don't, but at least still, like, from knowing them and from knowing what the portfolio company is or who the founder is, they can also help with, like you said, those second degree connections where, hey, maybe they met with a different group that ended up not being a fit for them, but would be a good intro for you to chat with as well. I think it's great. Yeah, trying to find those like second or third degree connections through a mutual usually can help open a lot more doors and opportunities. Because like you said, the cold outreach side, it's very spray and pray to a way. Like, you have no control of that process at the end of the day, whereas at least with warm intros, you can kind of steer it how you'd like to.
Kind of. And on that note, I would like to add that it doesn't, like, if you're looking for the recent projects that raised from the funds you like, they do not have to be very similar to what you're making. If they are in your broad domain, like B2B software as we are in, usually people are open to speak to, because sort of the markets are and go-to-markets are quite similar, etc. And securing a round is a wonderful achievement, right? So usually if you've reached it, you feel nice sharing your experience, you feel nice telling about it. And that's sort of the card I'm playing here. I'm probably doing a bit of flutter, but this is sincere, right? Because I know the struggle. I know how I expect I will be feeling if I succeed. And I'd love to learn more about how to do so, especially from people who have just raised from the funds I like. So it's genuine and it's emotional and efficient, I hope.
Yeah, a little flattery can go a long way.
Absolutely.
I always personally believe in trying to follow the reciprocity principle. If you're nice to someone, they'll tend to be nice back too. There's some people here or there that'll break it, but for the most part, reciprocity tends to work pretty well. Amazing. We're at time. Artem, thank you again for joining me on Bits and Atoms. It was great to have you today. I'll let you get back to building and fundraising, and thanks again for joining me.
You're welcome, and happy to be a part of it. Good luck.